Welcome. Okay, so what we're doing is we're each having a go at having 3 minutes to share on the words of antinatalism, veganism, and minimalism, and where you are at with those things, because that's the purpose of this meeting, is to start to explore creating a new culture, a new alliance, a new or alternative culture, alternative community based on those principles. I mean, there are already, I'll speak about that maybe myself, but there's already a Facebook group of vegan antinatalists, but I want to try and explore taking it further, maybe creating some kind of physical space as a kind of initial exploration in the UK, or maybe in Europe. So yeah. So Joe, would you like to take 3 minutes uninterrupted to speak about those three things? So Joe, would you like to take 3 minutes uninterrupted to speak about those three things?
Does anyone know how to make the video, the camera work so you can see my photo?
There should be something on the bottom, a little icon that says, oh, hold on a second. Are you online, or have you got the app?
I'm on an app, yeah. Oh no, I might be online. Let me check the app. I'm on the app. I'm on the app.
It should. If anybody can help here, I think it should say start video at the bottom. Should be a little icon.
Oh, wait, Hello. Hi.
Hello. Welcome.
I missed quite a lot at the start. Sorry.
Don't worry about it. We were just hearing from everyone what how they came or what their thoughts are about veganism, antinatalism, and minimalism.
Hey, Antinatalist Outreach, can you mute yourself when you're not talking? Because there's a lot of echo.
Antinatalist Outreach, can you mute yourself when you're not talking? I can mute him. That's
thanks.
I can mute him. Yeah, who's that coming out now? Is that Aiden?
Hello.
Is that Aiden? Yeah, try and mute yourself if you're not talking. Okay, so Aiden, do you want to go next, or Joe? Joe, you were going to do that, right? So Joe, so Joe's going to give us 3 minutes on his thoughts about these things.
Sorry.
So Joe, did you hear us? Can you work? Joe, are you okay to do that, Joe? No, we're not getting it.
Looks like he froze.
Joe, can you tell us, can you hear us? And are you okay to do 3 minutes on the subject?
He's gone.
He's gone. Okay, so Eden, is it Eden or Eden? Hold on.
You're muted.
I know I've muted it. I'm just trying to unmute it now. It's not letting me unmute now. Oh, hold on. Yeah, there you go. Okay, will you have another go?
Yeah. So I did identify as a vegan. I've got really ill, and the hospital prescribed me milk drinks, and I didn't want to take them at first, and I got really sick. I basically can't take like fructose and stuff. Like if you want to ask me questions, I'll answer them. But I've really tried. Basically, I was like 2.5. No, yeah. So I did like 6 months vegan, and then I did like I've been on them for like 2.5 years now. Yeah. So, but I kind of see I love the idea of veganism, and I think veganism is brilliant. I think detaching it and making it vegan as vegan in person, because I see. Anyway, right. It's really hard without having a conversation. Yeah, veganism is brilliant, perfect. I love it. I would never identify as a vegan, even if I could go plant-based again. But veganism is brilliant, and I fully support it. Antinatalism again, I wouldn't identify as an antinatalist. I see. I think we should detach ourselves from creating an identity for ourselves. And well, other people can do what they want, but for peace of mind, I prefer to try and detach myself from having an identity. So I wouldn't identify as an antinatalist, but I completely support the idea of we shouldn't propagate. We shouldn't be having it, especially when there's thousands and thousands of kids that are available to help. Why are we then having kids ourselves? And then the other argument is, why would you have a kid and take the risk with their health? Me, I can say for sure I definitely wouldn't. I wouldn't want a kid to have what I've got. So that's where I stand on that. What was the
third thing is minimalism.
Oh, minimalism. Yeah, I've been trying to chuck out as much stuff as possible. It's just a lot nicer having nothing. I've got my plants, and I hang out with that's all I really want is my plants. I don't like to think of things as a need. We shouldn't need stuff like even if we breathe, we want to breathe. So everything is a want. So I see the idea of needing something as completely like what we don't need anything with. Everything is a want. I see. So that sums up. Okay, so everything is a want. So really, what do I want? And all I want is just to relax. I like relaxing. I like music. And that's all I really need. Yeah.
Thank you for that. I'm going to stick you back on mute now. Conundrum. Do we have Conundrum here?
I will try one last time. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I don't think I will tell anything original or very constructive, as the arguments are already known by everyone, both for antinatalism and veganism. But for me, the most maybe unique or important thing in veganism is personal responsibility for well-being or welfare of another sentient creature, as I personally cannot really stop war or rape or killing of animals and abuse, but I can not participate in such actions. And similarly for antinatalism, I cannot prevent people from reproducing and continuing this circle of death and rebirth, so to speak, but I can not participate in this. So the personal responsibility aspect is key in my mind. Now, I don't really know how this minimalism comes into play, so I will probably listen to other people speak more about this.
Thank you for that. That was Conundrum, right?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, okay. Welcome. Okay, so we've got a couple of other people that have joined us. We've got Carlos, Curby, and Amanda. And we've been spending 3 minutes talking about our thoughts about antinatalism, veganism, and minimalism. Any or all of those things. So welcome to the newcomers. I haven't had a go yet, but that's fine. I can wait. Who would like to go next? Somebody? Carlos, Curby, Amanda? Anyone want to go next?
I think it's just easier to call someone out.
Okay, Amanda. As we've got your picture there, we know you're actually there. Do you want to share with us?
For a second, you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know what you want me to say. I don't know where you guys were already in the conversation, so I wasn't sure if a question had been posed.
Okay, no. What I did was I just introduced this as an opportunity for people just to share for a few minutes, uninterrupted, their thoughts about antinatalism, veganism, and minimalism, because that's what I'm exploring here, is the possibility of creating a social experiment, perhaps even with a physical place that people with similar values can live, or can try and live together to create a new type of culture. And I'll talk about that more a bit later, but I thought it would be good to hear from people what their thoughts are, just as an introduction, just as maybe 3 minutes, just to share your thoughts on all those three things.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I have nothing prepared, so forgive me if this is not the most succinct. But yeah, I think antinatalism is the most meaningful ethical stance you can apply your energies to. I think it is the next step in so many already existing and running ethical discussions, like very much in the case of veganism, is kind of the next step in that conversation. And
sorry, I missed what you sorry, hold on. I missed what you just said, the last little bit. Veganism, did you say?
Yeah, that vegan, I mean, the antinatalist element of that conversation has sort of been long left out. But I think that it's one of the most intrinsic parts of the conversations that hasn't been given the time and energy that it needs yet. So I think it is, like atheism, like the right to die, like all of these other subjects, antinatalism has been very much the missing piece in those discussions. So it's sort of the next step in my mind, to getting to a wider, more detailed, more whole, conversation and the development of arguments around those ideas. So minimalism. I think minimalism is. I don't know what this. I'm so. It's funny because it's like as far as the art that I make and the life that I lead, just in terms of like I love little things and I love a lot of shit everywhere. I love little toys and I love but I also completely appreciate how wasteful a lot of that is. So it's like I'm a little bit like minimalism makes me a little nervous, but that's just sort of a character flaw of mine, I assume. But I think it is important, and I mean I think I definitely have scaled down a lot, and it is better for in all aspects of life to, I think, try to embrace that as much as one can, even if it is anathema to the rest of your personality. So I don't know. I've tried to, I'm probably going over 3 minutes now. I'm not really sure what to say. But yeah, I want to see more people engaged in antinatalist activism. I think vegan activism can and should be a big part of that where possible, but doesn't have to be at every step of the way. And I think there's a lot of really great work that we can accomplish. Like, no, maybe we can't make everything go to get, completely, maybe extinction shouldn't be the goal at all times, but there's a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of work that can be accomplished, I think. And I just think it's awesome that you and Mark and like Tejas and, there's a bunch of new, antinatalist conversation happening on the internet now, which is like at a level that I think it's never really been as far as organization, especially with everything involving Child-Free India. So it's what can I say? It is kind of an exciting time to be an antinatalist, I think. And yeah, I'm excited to see how things develop. And I'm excited, I've been so busy with family crap. So like, I haven't really got to see in the last couple of months what you've been working on, Danny. So yeah, I'm excited to see what you've been
I blame your parents for that, by the way.
For which part? All of it?
Yeah, everything.
Oh yeah, me too. What do you know? Yeah, it probably is. No, it's my fault, but yeah.
Okay.
We all share the blame.
Okay, thank you, Amanda. So now we've got, how about Curby? Curby, can you hear us? And would you like to share with us about those three topics?
Hello?
Oh, hi, is that Curby? Is that Curby? Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, hi, Curby.
Hi.
Hi. You've got 3
sorry,
minutes. The floor is yours. Welcome.
Thanks. I'm a bit late, so I don't know what you guys already said, but yeah, I'm interested in the pairing of these three things. I always identified as a minimalist, I suppose. So I'm interested to hear your rationale in including that with antinatalism and veganism. I am recently vegan after officially identifying as an antinatalist this year, although I think most of my life I've been antinatalist without knowing it. But I think it's interesting to group these three things together because I think it's important to encourage consistency and just learning about how to be consistent through learning more about antinatalism has totally changed my life in a good way. And I think that I just have a more clear understanding of ethics. And I think building a community around that consistency would be really nice to see. In terms of activism, I feel like I'm too much of a hesitant, apprehensive, quiet person to feel like much of an activist. But that's part of why I admire your guys' work so much, because it's something different from what I feel like my capabilities are, but I would like to contribute to the community in any way I can.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you. Hold on. Yeah, thank you very much. That's lovely. Thank you, Curby. How about Carlos? Carlos, can you hear us?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't switch my camera on, but maybe
Okay.
next time
No
when I do
problem.
my makeup and stuff. I've got so those three topics. So I guess I've been an antinatalist for a long time. I'm 42 now, and back in the old days of the internet, I had a blog, say late 90s, early 2000s, and I wrote an article just kind of for myself and I guess the 12 people that read the blog about why it was stupid to have kids.
Mm-hmm.
and I found it recently on the Internet Archive, and there were a lot of arguments that I would identify with antinatalism rather than child-free. So yeah, so it's, you know, that's 24 years of thinking roughly of being an antinatalist. I remember at the time I said, when I wrote that, I said, look, if I still feel like this in 12 months from now, I'm going to get a vasectomy, which I then still felt the same way. So I did get a vasectomy at like, I was maybe 22 or 23. So I guess I've always been an antinatalist. I maybe when I was like first girlfriend and you want to make a baby with your first girlfriend or whatever, maybe something like that. I guess a lot of people feel that, you know, just to make the love real. But then that thankfully didn't happen. Thanks for my former country's very permissive abortion laws, thank God. So that's antinatalism. I've always felt like that. I thought that, I still think that, you know, there's definitely a skew between pain and pleasure in our lives. And pleasure seems to be more the absence of pain or worry or anxiety rather than an actual thing you go for. And you know, when I was a kid, I definitely thought that as a grown-up, things would change. And you know, instead of going to school, you'd go to a job, you'd like a job. And then I found out that jobs are, you know, there's some better than others, but mostly it's just a relief of having money and having something to do. And you know, there's some enjoyable moments, but it's such a skew towards unpleasant moments. And I'm not a unsuccessful person at all. I've got a steady job, bought a house a couple of years ago. I got like no money worries. I'm in a relationship, etc., etc. But it's not worth it. And there's so many risks associated with creating a new life. Another thing which draws me to antinatalism is that it's kind of, you can make a big impact with a small amount of activism. Literally, if you convince one person not to have kids, that's like a massive, massive impact that you have in, well, not in a life, but in a non-life, I guess. You've improved the world, I would say. As for veganism, so my becoming a vegetarian was my 2009 New Year resolution. So in 15 days from now, it will be my 10 years as a vegetarian. I became a vegan about 6 years ago. It just made sense. I always liked animals. I just didn't have any vegan role models or vegetarian role models. It was like completely outside of my social network. And it's really weird to become like a vegetarian if you don't know anybody, like if you're doing it by yourself. But thankfully, I had a job where we had sort of a cafeteria with buffet and stuff, and they started labeling everything as vegetarian or not. So I started, oh, let me try this out, and then it just became a thing. And then I convinced other people to become vegetarians. Once again, I think it's such a thing which you can have like a massive impact with very little activism. Like, you know, imagine, I don't know, if you've got like some political views and you're trying to convince other people to share your political views, it's a much longer road to convince somebody to have a different view on employment rights rather than stop eating animals. I mean, it can be like super quick to convince somebody not to eat animals, and it will make, you know, a difference to hundreds or thousands of animals if you convince a single person, which is you know, quite rewarding in my opinion. As for minimalism, I guess I'm an immigrant, so I've changed houses in the last 15 years about 6 times, and in the beginning I was carrying all this stuff across, and it seemed like every time I would change house I would have fewer and fewer things to carry, and but I haven't given that much thought besides that. So that's where I am. I enjoy your videos, Danny. I like them. I think they're funny. I'm a bit worried about some, like an aspect of antinatalism, which it seems to draw a lot of conspiracy theorists, and you know, oh, it's a global cabal of bankers, and we know what they mean by bankers, right? And I think sometimes it's hard not to get the message kind of mixed up with that crowd, because it can, you know, can really damage antinatalism. That's just a thought for later. All right, that's me.
Thank you.
Can I ask real quick? I'm sorry to interrupt. Where have you seen people conflating antinatalism with those types of conspiracy theories?
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not saying you haven't. I'm just curious where you may have seen that.
Carlos?
Am I unmuted? Yep.
No, yeah.
Amanda, hello. I've seen it quite often on the comment sections of Danny's videos, for example, and on YouTube and Facebook.
Do you mean that people think that antinatalists are antinatalism is itself part of the Illuminati's plan to reduce the world population? Is that what you mean?
That's one variant of it, which I'm not that worried about, because it would still place.
Yeah,
sorry?
like eugenics.
Yeah. And so they say that, you know, antinatalism is kind of some sort of eugenics plan, and they kind of conflate it with a bunch of other different things, with some kind of eco-fascist tendencies that exist. And I'm not comfortable with that, but, you know, it is what it is. I think it's just a message. It's clearing up the message, I guess.
I see what you're saying. So it's more, it's less that you're seeing antinatalists saying those things, but our opponents getting those two ideas conflated. I mean, I have seen a little of that too, but it's been very few and far between. So I was just surprised when you said that, because I didn't know there was like a larger.
Yeah, I haven't seen. Say, if you go on Reddit, on the antinatalism subreddit, which I guess is fairly important these days, it has what, 50,000 subs, which is something. You'll see like 1 out of every 10 replies will be somebody going about eugenics and this and that, right? So I mean, I think that's normal, because antinatalists can pretty much work by themselves, and there's a bunch of different messages going out. It's not like we get together like we do now and say, all right, let's draw up our agenda, our PR program. So I think those things are easy. They can happen.
Yeah, I think it's less that people are getting those ideas from antinatalists than it's that is their only frame of reference for anything even remotely resembling these ideas. Like they're so unused to a conversation about what life is or DNA being, a negative force in the universe, that the only thing they can liken it to is like the one-child policy in China or eugenics policies. And I think that's a really good point. So I'm glad you because I didn't realize it was happening more often, that people were getting confused. But yeah, I think that does show that we need to do a better job of like creating, either on like not necessarily the wiki or something like that, but yeah, that definitely needs to be some kind of way of getting people debunking that more than we already have, a better resource. But anyway, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing I would say about it is that if you see that in the comments of one of my videos, then just challenge it. Just challenge it online. Why not just have a bit of fun? Okay, so I'm just gonna talk as briefly as I can. So I became vegan. Okay, so I am a father of 3 children, and probably most of you know that. They are 22, 20, and 13 years old. And when my son was 9, he watched a few videos and he decided he was already vegetarian and he went vegan. And then that was about 4 years ago. And then I just followed. And that's, the ironic thing is that his choice to go vegan led me to go vegan, which then brought me to antinatalism. So basically his choice brought me to antinatalism. And yeah, it was just, I don't know, it just seemed a progression from veganism to antinatalism, and I stumbled across in Mendham, and I just, ever since, it's just like, it's been a really strange experience. It's like, it's changed everything really, or it's changed the way I see everything. There's still, some doubt. I've still got some doubt that I'm missing something. I have to always be skeptical about that. I might be missing something, and I'm on the lookout. Like for example, I contacted a very good philosophy site that my son happened to point out to me. Just a young guy. He's got a lot of subscribers on YouTube, and he's very bright. And I'd love to have a debate with him or a talk with him about it, because perhaps I'm missing something. But so far, it all seems very just rock solid. It just seems like now it seems obvious to me. And the whole idea of it, as far as I understand it, and that's what I said in the video, is that all of this is based on the idea of preventing unnecessary suffering. I think that's the pivotal primary idea at the root of all this, is to prevent unnecessary suffering, right? And the best way to prevent unnecessary suffering is by not bringing anyone in that can suffer. Once the person's in that can suffer, then we have to see, well, can we limit unnecessary suffering? Because as far as I understand it, that once we're here, suffering is absolutely not just necessary, it's absolutely crucial, right? We have to suffer in order for us to live healthy lives. So I have to suffer every day doing exercise if I want to have a healthy body, and I have to suffer every day trying to stop myself gouging myself to death with food, right? And I have to, whatever, all the other stuff that I have to suffer, that's necessary suffering in order for me to be here. But all of it was unnecessary because my parents didn't need to bring me here, right? And so therefore antinatalism is the first thing, and then veganism comes in as to say, well, now that I'm here, I need to limit as much as possible the unnecessary suffering of others, and animals do not need to suffer for me to eat. I can eat perfectly well and perfectly enough and perfectly tasty food without eating animals or their produce. Although there is a small part of me, I must say, that thinks that there may be some people. In fact, well, you're actually I've forgotten your name now. Eden or Aiden. Is it Eden? Hold on. Sorry. How do I pronounce your name?
Eden, like the Garden of Eden.
Yeah. So Eden said before that he's having to have milk products for his health. So that I think is not unnecessary suffering. I think that suffering of those animals. I mean, if you can possibly, if you can get your dairy products from a source that is not involved with factory farming, then that's obviously should be a priority. But the suffering that the animals are for your milk, I believe that could easily be argued as necessary suffering. But the vast majority of people's eating habits are full of unnecessary suffering for the animals, and therefore I think that plant-based living is part of it. And by the way, just as an aside, in this experiment, I also want to explore. I want to explore the possibility, at least just to talk about it, of creating a physical space, maybe as an experiment for a year or two, and that could carry on after that. A physical space where, at least in that space, we together create a culture of antinatalism, plant-based living, right, and as much as possible, right, and minimalism, whatever that might mean to people. And when I say plant-based living, I want to touch on another thing, which is that I think that using plant-based medicine is connected to this, and I think we should be encouraging people who need medicine to use, if they can, in the first instance, as a first-line treatment, plant-based medicine, which can help a huge number of different ailments, ranging from depression, anxiety, even, I mean, cannabis is a good example of has a huge number of therapeutic bases, therapeutic appliances. So I think that could also be part of this community, using plant-based medicine wherever possible, which is why I think it would be interesting to set up a place in somewhere like Amsterdam or Holland, where the rules about plant-based medicine are far less strict, and you can also do things like ayahuasca. And what excites me about it, by the way, is, I know I'm going over my time, I apologize, but I created this, so I'm going to do that, right? But what excites me is like to use, for example, to use plant-based medicine not just as a trip for people, but also to help them grasp the ideas of antinatalism better, to help them grasp the ideas of veganism better, because sometimes you can use these medicines to open people's minds. But if someone just goes and does ayahuasca, doesn't really, in my opinion, that doesn't really do anything if they're not dealing with these with what I believe is one of the most important principles that Amanda spoke about, the idea of antinatalism and preventing the harm being brought onto other people. So that's antinatalism and veganism. And the final thing, minimalism, why minimalism fits in for me. And I, by the way, I'm right at the beginning of my journey of minimalism. I live in a huge house. Well, it's huge, it's big. I live in a big house. We've got cars, not just one, right? And, and whatever, I've got 3 kids, and I live in this culture of not a minimalistic culture at all. And I'm trying to, I go through sort of stages of chucking loads of stuff out, and then getting other stuff in. And, that for me, of all those 3 things, that would be, I think that's definitely the hardest one for me. Although at the bottom of it, at the root of it, the reason why it's connected for me is because it's also about reducing unnecessary harm. Because everything that we touch is has got the stain of exploitation on it. So the less things that I have, the less exploitation. The less things that I have, the less CO2 is put in the air, if that's what's causing the problems. I'm not sure, but so that's why minimalism comes in with it. So that's my few minutes about this. What I wanted to do, and I don't know how to do this best. There's 8 of us here. I don't know exactly how to do this, and that's why this is an experiment. I don't know if we should, how we can get into a discussion or what we can do. But what I wanted to explore is, firstly, just as an aside, I have I think that this, you know, that this subject and this idea has got such a huge potential for creating amazing work, right? I mean, just for example, the last couple of days I've been listening. If you type in, I know Amanda's done loads of work at creating all sorts of lists of things, but I just typed into YouTube antinatalism music, and it came up with, it wasn't that many songs, but I don't know, 25. And some of them are just absolutely amazing lyrics and just fantastic stuff. That's just an example of music. And I have loads of ideas for, I mean, I've already made a lot of films about the, you know, this political idea, which is really kind of just a playing around with it, right? But there are lots of ideas I have and love to somehow. I've always found it really difficult to organize, do collaboration. So that's something that I don't know how to organize collaboration. I'm just not very good at it. I'm a bit ADHD, and I just like want to go out and do my thing, right? And so I don't know how to do, and that's I want to put that out there. But I also wanted to explore the possibility, and I'd love to hear from you what your thoughts are. The trouble is that a lot of you don't even live in Europe, so I mean, some of you don't live in Europe, but you might want to think about setting something up yourself, a physical place where we can be together, and to create like a culture where we can possibly live together, or maybe it's not necessary, but my dream is that we could create some kind of hub that people could maybe live in part-time, maybe I could also live in part-time, that was committed to sharing these ideas, both, you know, by creating retreats for people, or people to hang out with other people in, you know, practicing minimalism together, supporting each other, to just, at least in that space, to create a space, to find some kind of property, a space that people could help practice minimalism with each other. And that means, for example, helping people eat less, right? That's something that I really struggle with. But if I lived in it, I live in an environment where I come home and my wife's, you know, just the whole place is just teeming with food. I haven't got a chance, right? Whereas if I lived in an environment where we were all supporting each other to be minimalist, which means, you know, to sort of question, do I need this? Do I just want this? What do I decide to do? If we live in an environment where we are antinatalist and openly sharing these ideas, you know, you know, so it'd be really interesting, for example, to also talk about promoting adoption, and you know, and encourage, and so and obviously we'll be plant-based and using perhaps plant-based medicines as well to support each other. So that's the idea, right? And I just wanted to like put that out there. I'm wondering what you thought about collaboration in general and how it's best done, and B, the idea of creating some kind of culture, some kind of physical space where we create culture, a new culture based on these ideas. Open to you guys.
Well, where to start? Sorry, I'm kind of collecting my thoughts. I mean, as far as putting aside the idea of living with each other for like a second, I think like, which I mean, I'm just gonna be 100% honest. Like I have some mixed feelings about, just because I worry what that would turn into. But I also like, I've kind of been because I just, not to get personal or anything, but I just lost my grandmother, and I kind of saw her. I mean, she had 2 kids, and you know, she was taken care of and everything. But it did make me very. It just made me more in tune with the way that people get swallowed up when they're at the end of their life, and they have to become all kinds of things that they're not. They have to live all kinds of ways that don't represent the rest of their life. And I'm just brainstorming, but I mean, like, I one thing that I have been thinking a lot about in the last 2 months was like, I think that another area that, like veganism, I think antinatalism could be kind of the next step you know, in a larger conversation for is like in elder care. And like I love the idea of maybe, you know, there being like retirement homes set up that are for child-free people, where it's like it does send this message against the idea that like we're not gonna stand for being punished by the fact that we didn't procreate. Because when I mean, in America at least, if you die childless, you know, I mean, if you have children, there's no guarantee that your children are going to take care of you anyway, and I get that completely. But there's still this big idea that like that's what you have to do in order to be cared for in your later years. And I think that's a big area where we need to break down that idea. And I think we can be like a really great force in that. And so maybe having a place where child-free people could retire that was atheistic and, you know, plant-based and all that too, that could be an interesting idea. I don't know. That's one thing. I also did want to say on a smaller scale, like there is a lot of conversation happening right now about trying to have the world's first antinatalist meetup, because the antinatalists in India right now are moving towards some very they're getting very, very organized, way more than anywhere else in the world. And so there's a possibility that that could happen in India, you know, and trying to get people there from all over the world. It could happen somewhere else, but it looks like India is probably the place where it's going to make the most sense, because that's where all the people that are really dedicated to doing the organizing are. So it kind of would be interesting to maybe have your idea as part of the event. I'm kind of thinking, like, what if there was a part of the event where we did kind of make that a big part of the discussion, was like how you would move it towards like building a separate antinatalist society. But I also like, I'm very, there's part of it that like scares me about like making it a small place, where it's like I feel like so much of this just demands that it be a global message and not like a small space in the world that works that way, you know. But I don't know.
I mean, my idea, one of the ideas that I had about this is that it would be like it would be like a social experiment. It would be right, and so for example, my idea would be to have it somewhere in Europe, right?
Portugal's really good at for outside,
yeah.
for like growing. Sorry.
Yeah. Portugal's good as well. Bit hot in the summer for me, but anyway, I think I prefer Holland. I don't know. We'll see. I have to look at which has got the best laws. The other thing I haven't touched upon, which is also I think could make the experiment even more interesting, which is the idea of I mean, this is the controversial side. The idea of at least creating a space for people who've had enough of this game, to at least feel that they're accepted and it's okay for them to want to leave the game, right? That's a bit of a controversial, but let me leave that out for the moment, right? But what I wanted to say was that my idea would be to film this as a project, to have a good cameraman sort of follow this whole project, yeah, to create a space somewhere, let's say in Holland, right? To create this space in Holland and to film it as an ongoing process, to create this hub as a kind of trial of people living together and supporting each other and creating great content.
Can I interject?
Together, right? And following that, and you know, creating the content, and also part of the content that will be created would be an ongoing, well-filmed documentation of this experiment. That's the sort of idea that I'm thinking of. I probably can find. I had an idea. Maybe other people can think about this, but I had, for example, an idea of, and I may be able to. I don't know. It depends how much it costs, but I may be able to get funding, to find a place, to maybe even to either hire a place out for a couple of years, or even to buy somewhere and like rent it out with Airbnb or something like that. I don't know, as a sort of way of financing it. But yeah, but the idea is to film it as part of a social experiment. And the idea, what you were saying about, a small group, I think the idea would be is to start this off, and then in other countries, people can consider, they can consider creating a space for this to develop, for these ideas to develop. I don't know, maybe it's too much of a, grand idea, but I would like it because right now I live, right, I would like to at least part-time live with like-minded antinatalist vegan minimalists. I would really, really like that, because at the moment in my life I'm living with meat-eating natalist materialists. That's what my family are like, my immediate family, and part of my other family. They are literally the polar opposite of what I'm talking about. And I personally would find it really exciting and interesting and challenging. I think it might be, of course, I've got reservations about it. I've got reservations about living with anybody else, right? And and we all, as Antinatalist Outreach, who's been very quiet today. Are you there?
Good question. Do I exist? Is this really happening? Okay. Yeah, I understand what you're saying, Danny. And
I just wanted to quote you. I am a subscriber to your channel, as you know, and I did really enjoy your. I think it could be a bit more succinct, and I think the music. I think you could create a nice music video. I think you need to do a bit of work on it, but just the general concept of being a cunt, I just definitely agree with that. We're all cunts. And what's that?
It was very truthful from the heart.
I know. And the fact that, the idea of all us cunts living together, I'm sure that, it wouldn't be easy, right? So I also question it, but part of me would really, I think it would be really interesting, living together as minimalists and as vegans and as antinatalists, creating a new culture, creating, all sorts of different content and sharing all sorts of different content.
Do you think there's the demand right now where you are locally in terms of the numbers of antinatalist vegan minimalists?
That's a great question. A close friend of mine who couldn't be bothered to be here, maybe I'll give him a call now. He said to me, right, he said, you'll never find anybody. He said,
I wouldn't be as pessimistic when it comes to minimalism. That movement has grown, and they do have local meetups all over the world. There's probably one near you. And when it comes to the vegan movement, these things were small movements when they started. And I think, so like right now locally, if I was to say, hey, let's have a communal living for vegans, that could be totally done where I'm at, because it's grown. I think when it comes to antinatalism, though, we need to start first to grow the movement first. And in terms of, I think meeting face to face is a very important thing. So things like having meetups and having conferences, and through that, then we have a lot of people that would be more willing to do this type of communal living together, I think.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, because. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, go on. No, I like the idea of having conferences. Again,
it makes me think of an example. Have you ever heard of Ubuntu in India?
Yeah, I have. Sorry.
Yeah.
Someone just put their hand up here. Kirby, did you put your hand up?
That was me a while ago.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Okay.
Did you want to say something?
Yeah, it just because Amanda mentioned the Indian antinatalists, it makes me think of the Ubuntu Community Cafe. And if you haven't heard of it, I think it just started in September. And one of the founding members is a guy named Vegan
Sorry, how do you
Antinatalist
spell it?
on Instagram.
How do you spell it?
It's called Ubuntu, Ubuntu.
UBU.
And it's kind of like along the lines of what you say you want or what you're looking for, Danny. It's a space where you can pop in for a meal, stay for a few days, host meetups, and hang out with like-minded people. So it's not explicitly about antinatalism, but one of the founding members is an antinatalist. And I think it's mostly like kind of based on mostly veganism, I think, but also building the community.
Right, and where is it?
It's in Kolkata, India.
Right. It's a bit far for me.
And it's a physical place?
It's a physical place. They have an Instagram page. I'm not saying that would be the location, but maybe it could be used as inspiration.
Right. Got it. No, I was kidding. I get that. Right. I'll have a look at that. Ubuntu Cafe. Okay. Thank you for that, Curby.
Curby, I'm sorry to, is it, what is the name of the Instagram page?
I think it's called Ubuntu Community Cafe.
Oh, okay. It doesn't have a specific antinatalist name. Okay, I'm sorry.
5 out of 5 stars on TripAdvisor.
What was that?
Got 5 out of 5 stars on TripAdvisor.
Who was the antinatalist that started it? What was the name?
His name on Instagram is Vegan Antinatalist. I think his name is Vikash. Vikash?
Oh, okay. So it's not, there's another person that's pretty well known called Vegan Antinatalist. I don't think it's the same. I think it's two different people. Never mind.
Guy.
Sorry. That's what I was wondering too. I was like, when did he do that?
Right.
It's got,
okay.
got 4 stars on Happy Cow.
So what do you think about that? Like starting up community events where you are at right now?
Yeah, are you talking about to me or to
To
everyone?
you, yeah, Danny.
Right, to me, like community events here in the UK, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because your overall goal is to have this live-in community. First, you need the community.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think one point that has to be made, which Mark, exactly, is that like, there's been a couple of instances just this year of reporters and whatnot and journalists looking for antinatalists in London and not being able to find any. So I think that very few besides you. So it's like, no, it's no. And it's, so I think that they're out there, but I think that it's true. It's like there's a real thing in our community where that the whole idea of meetups is very, very new. Like Mark has had a few, and and outside of Mark and everything in India, it's very, very, very rare that antinatalists meet up at all. And there is sort of like there is a thing in our community where most antinatalists are still completely freaked out and afraid of like going public at all with any of this. And like the majority of people that put up an antinatalist video take it down. That is a total MO of YouTube antinatalism. So it's like, I think that that's part of my reservation with like jumping to the idea of a place where we all live, is I think we have a lot of work to do to get over a lot of that fear part of the development of our community. And I think meetups, like Mark said, is like a huge step in that direction. So that would be be awesome if you can, especially in the UK.
I think that the trepidation, the anxiety based around meetups and going public is justified. I think that there's a lot of vitriol towards antinatalism online, and it's people safeguarding their own well-being. We've all got jobs. We all live in communities, and it's attracting negative energy is very, very grinding. But people like Danny are an inspiration on that front. But there's not many people made like this man here, unfortunately. So I think we need to go back to spreading the culture. I think that's how we're going to get more Dannies out there, if you like, more people who aren't camera shy, are willing to go public, are willing to be beacons for antinatalism. And that's my view. I don't know. We can start our little antinatalism Hamlet. I think it's a great idea. But yeah, I am a bit pessimistic about numbers, to be honest with you. In the UK, I'm also a bit wary of how it will be received by the media and by yobbos out there. You know, meatheads, fucking shitheads.
I had a great idea today, right? Which you guys can. What I do feel really frustrated that I haven't managed to get any collaboration together with what I do, because I think it could be really, really improved what I do. But anyway, so today I was on the street and I came up with the idea that, in fact, which you covered earlier on. I said to everyone on the megaphone, it was like in the middle of Oxford Circus, there was like thousands of people there. And I said, ladies and gentlemen, the best thing that any of you can do for the environment is to persuade. I said, everybody here knows at least one person for whom it's completely inappropriate for them to reproduce. So if every person in the UK was to persuade just one person not to reproduce, we could have a fantastic effect here, right? And at some stage, a woman comes up to me, a young woman, and just threw a whole bottle of milk over me. because I was, because it's just the cognitive dissonance, the thing, and it's funny when that happens, right? I wasn't filming it, but it would have been funny filming it because she's proving my point, right? That she should not be reproducing if she's doing that kind of behavior. So that was one of the things that I think we can all like. There's so many fun things we can do with it that make it very, very difficult for people to take objection to what I'm doing. What's wrong with that? The truth is, it's true. Everybody knows somebody that shouldn't be having children. We all know somebody that shouldn't be, right? And so if we could just persuade them not to, then, we've all done something great for the environment, et cetera, et cetera. So I'd love some help with collaboration. I don't know how to get it all together. And I'd also, regarding meetups, again, if this is done, my skill, I guess, is that, which is just a natural given skill, is to create humor out of it, to create interesting and humorous, and it as a subject, there's so much fun you can have with it. I mean, it's endless, really. It's so yeah. I think we should go for a meetup. I don't know. I mean, you say, Mark, you've had meetups. Can you tell us about that?
So there's probably different event sites for different locations, but I hold my meetups on meetup.com, and you could open up an event. And I had the first Antinatalist meetup I think I had 7 people, and that was a big deal for a first meetup. I didn't think that anybody was going to come. I did another one, but then I'm involved in the atheist movement. I'm involved in the vegan movement. I'm involved in Death Cafe and the effective altruism movement. And I just couldn't juggle everything. So that kind of died out. But it works. And this is kind of why I'm trying to host a monthly online meetup with a bunch of antinatalists, and I'm trying to start a podcast just because I feel like those people have talked about a podcast for a very long time, but it hasn't started yet. So I want to just get that ball rolling, and hopefully someone else could take that over. I don't know. Yeah, if you just go to meetup.com and open up an account, chances are some people will come, and especially if you personally in your life know of any antinatalists, to just help show up to a couple of meetings, and then they tell their friends, and it just grows. I also started a skeptic vegan meetup, and 3 of my friends showed up to the first meetup. But I stuck with it for a year, and now I have 100 members in there. And don't get discouraged after 1 or 2 or 3. It's just keep the ball going, and
Can I come in
they
now?
will come.
Sure. Who's that?
Yeah, Carlos.
Oh, hi, Carlos. Welcome. Sorry.
Yeah, so
everybody-
I'm sorry.
No, I just wanted to encourage everyone who wants to speak. Please do.
Yeah. So I'm a person of interest, I guess, because I'm one of the few people in this call who's actually close to you, because I live in just outside the M25 in Hertfordshire. So I'm like a 20-minute train ride into central London. And I also, like you, I'm not afraid of doing stuff in public. I have a very convicted, very convinced about antinatalism and so on, and not in general kind of afraid of things. Anyway, so about meetup.com. So there's, for example, in London, there's a meetup called Philosophy Matters UK. I don't know if you heard of it. It has 190 members. It's had 3 events since September. 2 of the events were about Schopenhauer, who's kind of in the pantheon of famous antinatalists. Even though I don't know if he ever used the word to describe himself like that, but he's definitely in the area. And the other lecture they had was on Nietzsche. And those events, surprisingly, they were free to attend. They were like lectures on 2 on Schopenhauer, 1 on Nietzsche, and they had about 30 to 40 people each. And then discussion. They were like function room of a pub in central London. I think people might have maybe they put in like £1 or something just to pay for the room, or it was just on drinks. Perhaps it was like on a Tuesday, so those pubs will have spare function rooms going empty. And if people are interested in learning about Schopenhauer, they'll probably be interested in learning about antinatalism, because it's kind of in the same neighborhood. So that's an example. And I think once you've got like 50, 60 people who kind of know what you're about, or know what antinatalism is about, and kind of agree on the same 5 bullet points of what it is and what it should be, then you can certainly have a much bigger impact than you by yourself with your megaphone and your friend filming you. You can do either bigger stunts, or have a bigger influence, or kind of do bigger events, right? It's all part of kind of building a movement. Yeah.
You're muted, Danny.
You could also do things like, you have a lot of work that deals with these subjects, and so I would love to see you do some screenings, because that's something I'd like to do here. I haven't done it yet, but I'm hoping to this year, is like setting up screenings and then making that a platform to be able to speak on antinatalism. There's also, I've been reading about how like it is possible, to approach libraries and even museums that are near you, to like propose to do some kind of lecture on the subject, especially if you can connect it with something within their collection, which I haven't done myself, but like I'm trying to find like a specific pieces of art or something like the Art Institute here, because so long as you can connect it to something that people can actually go and see, it's easier to get like a proposal for lecture space and like Q&A kind of things approved. But yeah, I think screenings would be amazing, Danny, because you already have so much of that work. And so if like you could kind of make that its own activist space, really, like where you show somebody something, a group of people something.
I think
Sorry, but
I think that is a very good idea. The thought of what fills me with dread, right? I know it's funny, the things that fill me with dread. I'm happy to go out on the street, but it fills me with dread when you say, oh, we go into museums. The thought of like contacting a museum and then getting back to someone and all that crap. Right? So
it's just one idea.
I understand. But what came up for me afterwards was that something that I really think would not be that difficult is to have a watch party on Facebook, right? And
absolutely
show some of those films and then have a discussion afterwards on Facebook. So that's fine, and That's a great idea. Well, I'd like to ask Carlos though. Carlos, would you suggest that maybe, I mean, would you personally be able to contact this Philosophy Matters group and ask them if one of us can do some kind of presentation at one of their events?
Sure. No problem. Yeah. I'll message you my my number on Facebook.
Okay, lovely.
If you want to organize other stuff.
Right. Okay. What
Yeah.
else? Right. Go on. Yes. Who's next?
Yeah, I think Mark hit the nail on the head with the meetup group. I think that's a really good idea. I think that that's an easy way to market the antinatalism and to get more interested parties involved locally. Also, I think that this this online meeting, this Zoom meeting, is a good idea. Maybe if we could do it monthly. I know Mark does one as well, but the more the merrier. I haven't been able to join Mark's yet because I've been working at the time, but I've watched them on YouTube and they've been really good. So I think that's a great idea. And so if we could just keep that up, you know, the meetup groups and the Zoom talks as well. Just one thing is what it's in my mind is I don't know if any of you know any good street artists, graffiti artists who could do like antinatalist graffiti.
I
think that
don't
would be
offhand. I mean, I can draw, but I mean, I don't like to deface property. It's not really my speed.
No, but you can legally do it if you get permission, but I'm not condoning breaking the law, or am I? But yeah, it would be really nice to see some antinatalist graffiti out there, man. I think that'd be a really good way to publicize it. But it's
There
just
was
an idea.
recently, right? In Australia, there was like all kinds of stop signs where somebody had written like "stop making baby," like under "stop" they said "making babies" or something. There was some article about it or something I read recently. Sorry, I just clicked my memory banks. I'll try to find that.
Okay. Well, it's just an idea. I hope that we get some artists on board, you know, and doing that. That'd be wonderful. Okay.
So, Danny, how do you feel about that idea?
Which idea?
About starting a local meetup.
Yeah, I think that again, if Carlos is again, I just feel like I don't want to. I'm just not. I'm just. It takes me ages to just get my. I mean, just to get this thing together, just this meeting together. It took me a long time to create the video that I did, right? And it took me a long time, and I've joined Zoom and I had to pay for it, and I had to organize it and set it, you know, and I've got my whole life with my wife and my kids and all that, right? Unlike you lucky bastards, I didn't, you know, as my as my son wrote to me on my 20th birthday, he said that I'm finding it difficult to forgive you for not keeping your dick in your pants. So so he's still speaking to me though, which is, you know, kind of nice-ish. You know, that the only thing about the meetup is I'm 100% up for being part of it. I'm 100% up for, you know.
But it's the grunt work that's kind of a lot to deal with, juggling with, right?
Yeah, whatever. It's just, you know, it's just another thing that I don't want to have to do. You know, right. I mean, and you know, and I recognize that, you know, at the end of the day, all of this, you know, all of this is because of my addictions and my narcissism, and I want to just do what the fuck I want to do, and I want to get everyone else to do all the shit work, right? Whatever, I understand that's all going on, yeah, and whatever. And having said that, you know, what I can see other people, you know, vegan groups have got it together somehow, and other groups got it together, and it would just be nice to have people who, you know, London vegans.
I would suggest like maybe start there, you know, posting a lot on there, because you've already got at least a group of 8 people. It's not a lot, but I mean, Yeah, like I mean, you know,
Is that an online?
those are your 8 people to start mobilizing. So I think it's
That's on Facebook.
it's on
Yeah,
Facebook.
is that an online meetup or is that a physical meetup? That thing.
This is just a group. This is
That's
just
a group, but
or
we're
it might be a
talking about-
page actually. It's
I mean, this is an online meetup, which I really like the idea of doing it on a regular basis. I think it's a great idea. I
just wanted to say, like, I'm happy to. I'm terrible at collabing too. Honestly, I always say, like, I love doing it, but I'm always, because I have a million projects and I got, you know, I'm busy with stuff here too. But like, I'm happy to help any way I can. I just wanted to say that, and I think we do have somewhat similar approaches in that we both like to make humor out of this, and I also think that the well of humor that can be, you know, exercised and combined with antinatalism is bottomless. So yeah, I mean, I know we're in 2 totally different places in the world, but if I can do anything to help set stuff up, I mean, I'm definitely happy to. I think like Craigslist is also another great way of setting up meetups, and it's free, I think, still. I'm not sure. Also extending
meetup.com costs, doesn't it?
What, say it? Yeah, it does. Yeah, meetup.com costs. Yeah. Also, like, do you ever hand out like flyers and stuff when you do your videos?
I do occasionally, but they're not, you know, that good. I mean,
that's okay.
I mean, they're very verbose. I give out flyers which take probably about 20 minutes to read. I mean, they're absolutely jam-packed with information on.
Well, I'm saying if you have an event, maybe just have a really simple one, you know, for that event, and just saying, you know, you do it like plan the event 3 months in advance and start handing them out now. And that way,
the one thing that I thought we could all do together as an international project is what I was speaking about before, which is to have various online competitions. But I thought, like, have an online competition, right, for anyone that can, anyone who can prove that they've converted, that they've managed to persuade at least
Antinatalist Outreach, you got to close your mic.
There you go, I got it off. So I thought we could have a competition, right? And we could even crowdfund the prize for this, a competition for anybody that can prove that they have converted at least one person to becoming antinatalist, right? So, right, you know, I was saying on the streets today, you know, find the person who you think's the least appropriate to have children in your friends and relatives, and then like film them, you know, persuade them not to have children, and then you can film them, and then you can send that in to the competition. We can have a whole bunch of people's films, people coming up and saying, yeah, I was going to have children, but my friend Mike here persuaded me and made me realize how stupid it was, and I'm not going to have children anymore. And then we can like give out prizes to people. Again, these sort of funny ideas, which I don't know if you guys, you know, and then create flyers, you know, flyers.
That's a great idea. I like that.
People. Yeah.
It is a great idea. I love it. I don't know how many entries you get. I'm just being honest, because I think people would maybe be too afraid to do that. But I love the idea. If you can get people to do it, that's great.
Yeah, but imagine, but I could I could give out flyers, and on the flyer it says win £100, right? Persuade someone you know not to have children.
Yeah, totally.
I think we're just talking about getting numbers for this meetup group or for the real life meetups. I think it's important to utilize the vegan groups on Facebook that are already there and tens of thousands of members. I mean, there's a London vegans group that has shitloads of members, man. It has tens of thousands. And you could go on that, Danny, and make a post.
Okay. So Carlos, would you be up for like making this, you know, I'm happy to put it, you know, to post it wherever I can, but would you be up for creating something?
Yeah, well, I can certainly talk to the set up the meetup one. I'm not sure what the strategy will be for the tens of thousands of London vegans, but we can talk about that later, I guess.
Well, we can invite them, can't we? I presume.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. I mean, I mean, a lot of vegans. I mean, there's lots of reasons for people for being vegans, but a lot of them will have thought about antinatalism, right?
Well,
or reduction of
not
harm,
that many.
etc., etc.
I nearly got chucked out of the vegan camp out last year when I went round with a big sign saying thank you for not breeding, and there were people with their little children in the queue getting really upset. What's that? Antinatalism UK child-free life, right?
Have you just seen Charlie Veach's
Oh
video?
my God, what a fucking dick!
I know.
Oh my
I know.
God! And you should
It's
see
not bad.
you should see what he wrote in the comment to my. Does everyone know who Charlie Veach is? Sorry, no.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I won't go into it. It's not worth the energy. But I used to do work videos with him, and he basically went into the middle of Manchester and started having a go at the cube of truth people who had, you know, screens with them showing all the animal torture. And he was saying, how could you do this? You know, there are young children walking past here. Because he himself is a meat-eating geezer, and he's got several children, and he's really angry that I've moved into this antinatalism. But he's obviously taken it really badly inside himself. Anyway, I won't bother too much about that. So it's now 9:20. I'm aware of the time and conscious of the time. I think we've got somewhere here because we're talking about a meetup, which is great. We've also talked about doing this on a regular basis. At the moment, I pay for this, right? I'm happy to carry on paying for this, although it is 12 quid a month. You know, just another thing that I'm paying for, even though I don't make very much money in my life anymore. But I don't know if these things, which I'd open this up for people to sort of donate or something towards it. I don't know. At the moment, I'm not that bothered by it. So shall we have another one of these meetings before we finish anyway? I'm not saying we're going to finish necessarily now, but should we have another one of these meetings scheduled? Do you want to do it next month, everyone? Yeah?
Yeah, I'm down to do more of these. Yeah, I have very little money myself at the minute, but later on down the road, I can definitely contribute.
Okay, no problem. Is this sort of time on a Sunday good for everyone, or do people have other preferences?
Yep, good.
It's bad for me, but I can take the time off.
Okay, all right. You work on a Sunday?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I'm sorry to hear that you work at all. I blame your parents for that. You should come to you should contact one of my organizations. I don't know if you saw my film, the Children's Liberation Front. We help people like you claim money from your parents in compensation for you having to have a job at all, because it's their fault. You know that.
I thought it was brilliant.
Okay, so we've got the meetup. We're gonna meet up here sometime next month on a Sunday. What else is there?
So are you gonna make maybe your own Facebook like London Antinatalist page?
I don't know if there's already one there. I'm happy to be part.
Or just go into that one. Yeah. Well.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea as well. So make the London Antinatalist Facebook page. What else is there?
I don't have Facebook.
Oh, you don't? Okay, good for you. Yeah.
Twitter account.
I mean, what's that?
A Twitter account.
You got Twitter? What have you got?
Well, I know some people that are only on Twitter and some people who are only on. Oh.
You only have email?
I don't have a phone.
Oh, you don't have a phone?
How did you find out about this? I don't.
YouTube.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Did someone make a video about it?
Great that you've not got a phone. I mean, seriously.
Oh, he did. What am I talking about? Yeah.
What's that?
Sorry. Nothing.
Your video.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to think.
Where are you going to post this, Danny?
I'm not bothered.
You want the recording of this?
Yeah.
I don't know, actually. I don't know. Do you think it's useful to post this?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's up to you, but it's
yeah. I'll probably post it. I'll probably post it as an unlisted video on my channel, and then I'm not sure what to do about. I don't know how can I let you guys know?
What you can do is you'll put it unlisted, and then you would have to email or
no. Then I could post it. No, I could post it in any of the Facebook antinatalist groups. The only thing is that you wouldn't be able to see this. But I mean, you know, you've been in it, so you don't really need to, do you? Sorry, I'm talking to. I've forgotten your name here. What's your name again? Eden. Yeah. So Eden,
yeah, I'm not bothered about not seeing it. Do I want myself put on Facebook though? Who looks at it?
That's a good question. That's a good question.
Who looks at? I probably would have just had a black screen if I knew it was going to get posted anywhere.
Yeah, that's a problem. That is a problem. And
It's an understandable problem. Like I sympathize with people not wanting to show their face, but I think it's also important that we do too.
That's a difficult one. I sympathise with that, and I think that maybe I shouldn't post this online. Maybe this particular meeting, maybe I shouldn't post it online because
I'm happy.
I should have said it at the beginning.
If you want to do another one and post another one online, I'm happy for you to not to do that. I just wouldn't be part of it.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. If I want to post it online, then you would have
I don't want to be part.
put your picture not on it, and that's absolutely fine. I don't blame you. Why would you want your picture on Facebook?
Alternatively, you could just take the audio from this and upload it.
Yeah, I could do. Yeah,
that's a good point. Just make a podcast out of it.
I just don't know how good it would be, the audio, but I don't know how useful it would be for people.
You'd be surprised.
Honestly, like the vast majority of antinatalist meetups are online. They're all gone. Like people have taken them all down over the years. Really? So I actually think people would want to hear it because there's not a whole lot for people to listen to.
They've taken it all down?
Yeah, they're all gone. Oh yeah. Huge. Wow. I have tons of them because I save everything.
Right.
But really, it's like most of the ones that Flyora used to do are gone. Most of the Amendum stuff is like all over the place, and yeah.
Right. She's like, she put a video out saying that she's no longer an activist.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's done that a lot. Don't.
Oh, okay.
Don't worry about it. It happens. Oh, yeah. Don't worry about it.
I'm not particularly worried about it. I wasn't a big fan of hers, to be honest with you. I'm not saying, whatever. I didn't particularly like her kind of energy, but that's fine.
Did you all know each other from a different YouTube channel or something?
Well, there's only a few antinatalist YouTube channels, and
do you have a YouTube channel as well, Mark?
I have two, yeah.
Oh, okay. What's your YouTube channel?
So the one that will have more content is Antinatalist F-list Hangouts. That's where I post all the hangouts. I'm trying to anyway. And then the other one is just my name.
Oh, I didn't realise. So you organised this, not Danny?
No. I host a different hangout.
Oh, okay, got you.
And what do you use? Do you use Zoom as well for that?
Yes, but I didn't pay, so like there's a time limit of 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Which sucks because.
Yeah, exactly. I know.
I tried StreamYard, and next month I'm going to try Google Hangouts.
Right.
So.
Right.
Yeah, the only thing with Google Hangouts is you got to be really careful not to share the link to it openly. Like you've got to post it to the people specifically that you're having stream, because if some rando comes in and posts porn, YouTube can not only mute the audio of that video or take the video down, they can actually like give you a strike on your channel. Like all kinds of bad things can happen. So you gotta be really careful using Google Hangouts.
I learned my lesson the first meetup we did, even though you warned me. I'm glad that I had the second channel though because of that. So someone came in and showed themselves, and I forgot where I was going with that. But yeah, so like I only send a link to the people that I know that want to come. I don't do it publicly anymore.
Right. Well, just want to say a big thank you for not showing your genitals today to everyone.
I was just about to. Fuck.
I was waiting for the right opportunity.
Okay. Anything else? Anybody else?
You've been lovely. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for hosting and organizing this.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you, Danny. This has been
It's
great.
really lovely. It was really enjoyable. Lovely to meet you all.
I'm
And
almost glad
I
we were
look
all
forward
born.
so Carlos, you're going to contact me somehow, right?
Yeah, I'll send you my number, and I'll
Right.
start moving with this.
And what shall I do about the next one of these? Do I just post it on where? I mean, is there any way of this? I don't know if you used this before, Mark. Is there any way that I can contact everyone from this meeting?
No,
Mark, what is that? What is that other site that you use, Mark? What is it called?
StreamYard.
No, not that one. It's the one where it's like a calendar site so that people can like sign in and say what day they're available.
Oh, like a doodle poll?
Yeah, doodle poll. Maybe he could use that.
What's that?
It's a way to schedule meetings. So it sends a link to everyone, and a calendar pops up, and then they put the time that they're available, and people just vote, and then I pick the day that most people can show up.
Right.
And if you just Google doodle poll.
Yeah, but how would I poll you guys? How would I know what your?
I just keep an Excel spreadsheet. I don't know an easy way to do that.
What, with your email? So that means I would have to keep an Excel spreadsheet with your email addresses in.
Email or Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. I think Antinatalist Outreach is on everything, and so is Amanda.
I think, Danny, mate, if you're looking to notify people, just tweet me or Amanda or Mark or Curby, and we'll spread the message. Don't worry about that. And if you just communicate on the Facebook groups as well, the message will get out there. You don't have to make a video on your channel specifically about this again. Just use the different channels, and I'll retweet it to all my followers, and I'm sure everyone else will as well.
Lovely.
Yeah, because I can spread it around everywhere. Like if you just let me know in advance, I can make a video. I can put it on Discord. I can put it on Antinatal News. I can put it on all over the place. So yeah, just let me know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Just one last thing is that this is maybe someone can afterwards chat to me about. Is I haven't really worked out how to use Reddit yet, and I'm wondering whether the films that I make are good for me to post on Reddit. I don't know how to do it. I don't know why. I just can't seem to.
I post your stuff on Reddit sometimes, because I'm one of the admins on the Antinatalist subreddit.
Okay.
So I definitely think it's a good thing to place to get involved with, because it now is gigantic. It's so many people on there.
Right.
Can I just say?
By the way, I'm just working through my videos, all the and particularly the antinatalist videos. It's funny because I look back. It's so weird, right? Like since I become antinatalist, it's just everything has changed, and I look back at my old videos, and I think like most of them are they're just pale into ridiculous insignificance. You know, I did a video, I don't know if you saw, about a week ago, where I tried to arrest the police officer. It was I tried to sort of detain and arrest him. Yeah. Because did you see that? Yeah.
Yeah, and I saw your
I'll
analysis.
check it out.
Right. And you saw my analysis, right? And because so it's like, Public Order Act, being the way we're treated by the police is so much better than the way we treat other animals and B, other humans. And so everything's pale into significance. And I look back at the old videos and I really wonder whether I should just remove them, because they're just a distraction.
would hate that. He would hate
please
that.
don't. Please don't. I mean, if you want, create like an archive of your own content.
I won't. But what I am doing is that I'm working my way through all my antinatalist videos, and I think there are probably about 30 of them. I'm not sure, maybe even more. And I'm putting really good what I think is decent thumbnails on them, and changing the titles of them to be more interesting and more, and more provocative.
Are you making them into one playlist?
Yeah, no, I do have a playlist already, and it's not complete, but I'm going to build on that playlist. And once I've got some really good thumbnails up for them all and titles, I'm going to then share the playlist with you guys. So I'm working on that at the moment.
Just two things there. Firstly, about Reddit, you asking about how it works. I've kind of started to use it myself, and I understand it's about the karma. And if you don't have good karma, your post isn't really seen.
That's why mine haven't been seen at all.
Yeah. So how to get the karma is comment on new posts, and then people will start giving you likes, and then your karma goes up. And when you've got high enough karma, your videos start to be seen.
But it doesn't take a lot of karma for that to start happening. And the reason why it's like that is because the subreddit gets bombarded by trolls. There's all kinds of bad things that have happened on the subreddit. So they had to raise the karma level to a certain height or level so that it could weed out people that basically make an account the same day and then start trouble that same day and then get rid of the account. So it's a way of weeding out trolls. I know it's a bit of a hassle, but
can you get karma from other groups?
You can, yeah.
Yes,
you can.
yes.
I've commented on child free, and I've got a lot of likes there because there's a hell of a lot of users on child free. I've also commented on the misanthropic group as well. The way you do it, you look for the new posts, because if you comment on an old post, it's unlikely they'll be seen. So just search for new posts, comment on them. They're the live ones, and then your comment is likely to be one of the first comments, so it's going to be seen by more people.
Okay.
Secondly, I just want to say, Danny, it is interesting to see the evolution of your channel, and it is great that I think keep all your old stuff because it's so fucking funny, man. I love it. But secondly, I love watching people's jaws drop at your kind of personal evolution. And there's people on your sub, you know, that they haven't got a fucking clue. They think you're joking. They think that you're acting. And I personally get a little hard on for that. So.
Yeah, it is great, Danny. Please don't get rid of your content.
Okay, I won't. Thank you so much, everyone. It's been an absolute pleasure. Really, really enjoyed it.
Can I just say one last thing? Because you mentioned about sharing to Reddit. The easiest way to do that from a YouTube video is just go directly to share, and it'll allow you to select Reddit, and then you can share right from YouTube. I do it all the time. So so YouTube has a really great. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So long as you're signed into your Reddit account, it'll go right there. Yeah.
Great.
You got to select the group, but other than that. Yeah.
Okay, great. Yes.
Yeah, I think if it causes you more stress looking back at them, though, delete them. You do what you find best for yourself.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't cause me stress, but I do wonder, you know, whether, you know, I mean, basically the way I see it is that it's basically it's just like any other shit entertainment. It's just a distraction from what's important, in my opinion. Yeah. So it may be very nice and very funny. Yeah. But like, you know, when I think about, let's say, you know, the thought that comes into my mind is that in Mendham, for example, doesn't even like George Carlin anymore. Right. You know, so.
I don't know who they are.
What?
I don't know who they are.
Who George Carlin is or Mendham is, you mean?
No.
Oh, okay. You should definitely find out who George Carlin is, and you should definitely find out who Mendham is as well. If you want a good, by the way, if you want to, I don't know if you agree with me on this, everyone, but if you want a good introduction to In Mendham's videos, then you go to, I don't know how you spell it now, Gray something or other. Do you know there's a guy who's put...
Gray Tide Show.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know how you spell it. How do you spell it, Amanda? Can you put this in a box? Can people like...
I will.
Oh, yes. Here, look, here it is. Just put it in the box. How you spell it? Because you, Eden, you should really check this guy's YouTube channel out, right? As an introduction to In Mendham, who is, in my opinion, one of, I mean, I don't, you know, one of very few important thinkers in the world of antinatalism, and very entertaining, but also extremely verbose, and his videos just go on and on and on. But if you watch this guy, there you are, Grey Tiach Zero, it's come up in the chat, yeah? Go to his channel, and he's got some fantastic... What's that?
Where can I see that? Chats?
Yeah, in the chat.
Oh, yeah.
Grey Tiach Zero. He's...
Grey Tide Show.
Grey Tide Show, right. He's a very good introduction to In Mendham. And regarding George Carlin, I mean, I would definitely have a look at his work because it's very funny and it's quite meaningful.
I just searched for that. I don't see
You don't see what?
a user with that name.
Great. Is
George
that
Carlin.
have you definitely got
Close.
the name right?
You know his work,
American
right, Mark?
comedian. An American
did-
comedian?
Yeah, no. George Carlin is the American comedian.
Yeah. And then the other guy I copy and pasted. Who was the person your son showed you? You said your son showed you some person on YouTube. Was about philosophy.
Oh yes, he's called the Skeptic, the Cosmic Skeptic.
Cosmic Skeptic. I'll have a look.
Yeah, and my son's in Oxford, and he's studying in Oxford University. He's a young guy. He's got very good. He's a very smart guy, and I'd love to. I've been in touch with him. He hasn't got back to me, but I would love to, to talk to him about it all.
Yeah, I'll have a look.
Yeah.
I'm from Oxford too.
There's the link to Gray's channel.
Who's from Oxford?
Yeah, Eden.
Oh, do you live in Oxford?
I live in Farringdon. It's Oxfordshire. It's very close to Oxford. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So great. Thank you very much, everybody, and I'll see you next month, hopefully.
Thank you.
Great, thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Take good care, everybody.
Ciao.